Hello Infiniteers, and welcome back to Toy Box Tutorials. For today's lesson, we are going to talk about trains. As a kid, I loved building and playing with model railroads, which is one of the reasons why the Lone Ranger playset is one of my absolute favorite playsets. The movie may have been a flop, but the playset oozes charm, and it feels like a serious Western game, even if everyone is armed with pop guns. One of the central features in this playset is the train. Some of your early missions involve getting the train up and running again. To do this, you have to clear the blockades from the tracks and purchase a new train engine. Once you do, you can begin collecting a variety of different railroad cars and using them to haul water, cattle, lumber, and other goods to people who need those things. The playset allows you to customize the train to add the cars you need for each particular task. You can then shoot targets on various dispensers to tell the train to pick up certain things like water or cattle. And you can even ride the train to its destination, where it will deliver the goods. There are bridges to repair and tunnels to unblock that will open up new railroad lines, and you can control switches that will tell the train which way to go to help it get to its destination. It's like playing with a huge virtual train set, which is pretty awesome, and I really like that. Unfortunately, they never made this train available for use in the toy box, and that's a real shame because I think they missed a great opportunity here for fans to build something really special in their toy boxes. However, the Marvel Battlegrounds playset made available a number of train-related toys that you can unlock. And so I thought it'd be fun to take an episode to look at these toys and see what we can do with them. So there's a variety of railroad cars that are made available. The tanker car, which, by the way, all of these are in the decorations drawer after you unlock them. But the tanker car is unlocked by completing challenge number 5 as Black Widow. The subway car, which is here, is unlocked by completing challenge number 1 as Captain America the First Avenger. And the other cars here are all unlocked by using the playset piece, putting that on the base, which unlocks them in the toy store for you to purchase. And the same is true for the train track and the train stopper. And these are all of the train toys that we have available, as well as the train engine, which of course you find in the ground vehicles drawer after you purchase that from the toy store. And I think we've had that since Disney Infinity 1.0. But that's everything we have, and it's a shame that the only piece of track we have is a straight piece of track. You'll notice from the menu in the lower right there's no logic connection, so you can't put this on a path and try to angle it or make a turn yourself. All you have is the straight piece. And it's a shame, again, that they didn't make other pieces available, because we know they had them. You can see them in the Marvel Battlegrounds train yard level. They had a zigzag piece and a train track switch, as well as a railroad crossing gate that you can see in the foreground here that would have been nice to have in the toy box. And I don't think it would have been difficult for them to make a curved track piece so that we could build a train track that goes anywhere we want. But this is what we have to work with. Now, all of the train cars do have a logic menu, so let's take a quick look at that. You'll see there's a trigger signal this broadcasts, which is broken or collected. So you have to be very careful with these train cars because you can destroy them. So treat them as if they're fragile, because they are. And you can also add these to a path, which means we can make these things go where we want. All right, so what can we do with it? Well, to kind of demonstrate that, I've built a little toy box here with kind of a little theme park. And I've got a train station, and I'm not going to show you how to build this because you can do that yourself. This is just my idea for a little train station and a toy box for a small train yard or train set. But I ran the track down here, and when you get to the corner, of course, you run into this problem. You don't have a turn. And you can put the track right up next to each other, but you still have a 90-degree turn. And so what I thought might be a way to cover this would be to put the corners inside a mountain or a tunnel and use a sky change to trigger the dark sky to kind of cover up the fact that you're making a turn here without any track under you. And I'm going to demonstrate that in a minute. And then we run the track down this direction, across this bridge. And then we come up to our next turn, so I got a little mountain here with a tunnel where I'm going to do the exact same thing. And past a farmyard, through a canyon, and then another tunnel for another turn. And same thing on this end. Okay. Alright, so to build the train, we need a path. And I know we're not going to be able to recreate exactly what we had in the Lone Ranger playset. But you can see what I've got here, and this will give you some ideas for what you can do. So I dropped a path down, and I did this ahead of time because it took me about 20 minutes to get these path points finagled into where exactly I wanted them to be. And so I figured it'd be quicker to show you the end result. But I placed the path back here and then went this direction. And I did not put the start of the path right here in front of the station because the train, when we build it, is going to be built that way. And I want the engine down here near the train station, not way out here in front. Okay, so I placed my path creator here. If I can select the silly thing. And then I placed path points along the edge of the path, along the path, like you see. And they're about the length of a train track or a train track and a half. And then when you come over here, I've got a point right here at the entrance, or the exit for the tunnel. Another one here, and the next one over here. And you can't really see the path, but if I come underneath, what you can see is why I lined these up the way I did, was to try to get the turn to turn right into the next point and then go straight down the path, down the train track. Okay, so it comes off of the track over here where it was going straight, and then the path points are placed in such a way that we have a turn, and it comes out of the turn going straight down the path. And I did this in each of the tunnel areas. Okay. So this kind of tells you about how to position these. And sometimes, depending on the size of the tunnel, I either put the piece here or inside the tunnel a little bit. And I did that on all four corners. So the idea is when you have to have a turn, hide it inside a tunnel where we can trigger a sky change to kind of cover up the fact that we don't have a curved piece of track. Alright, so we have our train tracks running through our toy box now. We have our tunnels. So let's go ahead and build the train. And what we want to do is come into our path creator and set the properties so that the looped flag is on and auto start objects is off. Okay. Oh, and by the way, when you're placing the train track, I forgot to mention this, but you'll notice on this end there's a little knob And on that end, there's a little groove. So the idea is to place the knob into the groove. It will let you place it like this, but really you need to place it that way. Alright, so let's set this button up to reset and stop the path, because we're going to need that as we're building the train. So we'll come over here, do a reset and stop. And our first train car is going to sit right here on top of the point, the path point, and we're going to build the train in that direction. And we're going to start with, let's say, this green car here. And I think I'm going to place this down without connecting it to the path initially, because I got to be able to select the cars that are going to go in front of this on the path. I can't have them right over top of this car because it's going to be hard to select them. So we're going to put this off to the side, and I can only go that far. But this will give us some room here on the side to be able to select the cars. And it also tells us where the next car has to go, which is right there. Okay, so let's connect our next car up. And I think for our second car, we'll use the subway car. So we'll do a new path connection. This will take us a few minutes to build the train, but I don't want to rush through this because I want you to see how to do this. Alright, so there is our train, and we can select this car because it's not sitting directly on top of that other one. And the idea now is to get this out in front of the other car. So let me come into here so that I can adjust the camera where I want it to be. We need to orient along the path, and we're going to set the reset point to 1 initially. And let's come push the button and see where the car ends up. And you'll notice there's some overlap. Now if I try to set the reset point out to 2, you can see how far setting it to 1 has brought it out away from the path. And just to demo, let's set this to 2, and you can imagine this is going to be way too far away from the other car. And it is. We have too big of a gap. But not to worry. There's a way to deal with that. And I want to show you that. So let's come in here, and then I want to swing the camera around. So we're going to come back in here, and we're going to place the reset point back to 1. To put it back where it was a moment ago. And then we're going to use some offsets to adjust the position of that. Alright, oops, new logic connection. So we can adjust our position here. Go under Properties, Toy Box Path, and we're going to go down to the Move Forward Backward Offset. And if we set this to, let's try 2. And you'll notice it moved it where we could kind of see it. So I don't have to go push this button for that. But you'll see it put it right about where it's got to be. So 2 is good. I think 3 is going to give us a gap there that we don't want. Alright, so there's our second car. For the next one, let's use the tanker. We'll do a new path connection. Connect that up to the path. And then we'll come into the Properties, Toy Box Path, orient along the path. If you forget to set that, it's going to be going sideways when you go around the turns. Reset point this time, let's set it to 2. And we'll come out and push the button. And again, we have some overlap. So we'll use the offsets to fix that. Come into Properties, Forward, Backward, Offset, and just adjust this until you get the thing to where you want it. And again, 5 looks like it's decoupled, so 4 I think is going to be best. And we'll do one more. We'll do the flat car next. So a new path connection. That's a tricky one to select. Under Properties, Orient along the path. Reset point this time, let's put that to 4. I think 3 is not going to be enough. And let's press the button and we'll see where that ends up. Alright, so this time it's out in front of the train. So this time we'll use a negative offset. I think 3. Yeah. Alright, so that puts the car there. And I think you get the idea, so let's do the train engine now. New path connection. We're going to put this right on the path, but this time the ground vehicle doesn't move automatically, not usually. So under Properties, Toy Box Path, Orient along the path, reset point, let's set this to 5. And we'll see where that ends up. Okay, so it's out in front a little ways, so we're going to have to use an offset to move this where we want it. Okay, so forward, backward, offset, and this time it's not going to move, but I built this ahead of time, and -5 seems to be pretty decent. I think -4 is going to put this a little too far out in front. Let's try that though, just so I can show you. See, it's a little bit too far out front. But if you can live with that, that's fine. If you back it up, it's going to be touching the edge of this. And it might be a little bit too close. It looks more comfortable there, even if it isn't connected. But just to show you the difference. And you can decide which way you like it best. See there, it seems to me a little too close to this, although it looks like the couplers could line up. All right, so there's our train. All we have to do now is connect that last car to the path. So new path connection. And we don't have to set any reset points or offsets, but we do need to turn on that flag. Okay, so there's our train. And I did do that with this one, right? Yeah, orient along this set. Okay, so that's how we built our train. So we have a train track, we have a train. Now, we want to be able to have the train go around the track. And there's a couple of ways I'd like to do that. I would love to be able to jump in the engine and actually drive the train. And I would also love to be able to just push a button sometimes and go do other things and have the train drive itself around the track. And so in order to support that, we're going to use 2 logic gates. We're going to use this one to get the train to go. We're going to use this one to get the train to stop. And so when the player jumps in the train, we'll do a new logic connection. When entered, we will input into this gate. And on output from the gate, we need to make each of the cars start moving. And I'm doing it this way versus going to the path and doing a reset and play, because I don't want the player to jump into the train and have the train jump back here to the start of the track. Whenever I get in and out of the train anywhere along the track, I want the train to stay there. So we have to start and stop each of the individual objects on the path separately. So we hooked up the engine on the logic gate, new logic connection on output. We'll have the flat car start. And we'll do this for each of the cars. And this is another reason why I didn't build too big a train for this tutorial. Because I didn't want to spend a lot of time hooking this up. But you can't have a train with only 1 or 2 cars. That's just, to me, that's not a train. Okay. And I also thought it'd be fun to play a little sound effect, so I dropped this sound effect generator out here. And of course, we want to turn that property off so we can hear that anywhere. But I thought when we jumped in the engine, or when it started moving, it'd be fun to play a sound effect. And under the vehicle category, there's a train whistle, which is kind of cool. So we'll do that. All right, this one we will use for stopping the train. And so when the player exits the engine, we'll do a new logic connection. When exited, we'll input into this second logic gate. And on this one, we will hook this up to each of the cars and the engine to do a stop. And this will stop the train wherever it happens to be. So on output, stop each of the cars. Because one of the things that's kind of fun about having a train in the toy box is being able to drive it yourself if you want. You want to be able to do things that you can't do in real life. Or for that matter, even in the Lone Ranger playset. Okay. And I believe when I hooked that up to the tanker, I did do a stop, right? Yes. Couldn't remember if I selected the right one. All right, so entering and exiting this will start and stop the train. And if I want to be able to just let the train run on its own, we can use these buttons for that. So when that one's pressed, we'll tell the train to go. When that one's pressed, we'll tell the train to stop. Okay, so let's go ahead and just see how that works. And all the cars are going, and the train's a little bumpy. And you'll notice when I stopped it, it scooted out front. And that's because this is using driving physics, and there's really no way to turn that off. If you put that down with a vehicle summoner, you can turn off driving physics, but then you can't hook up logic for when you enter and leave it. You can't set any offsets. It's kind of limited, so that's the trade-off. And if we hop in, that works too. And of course it runs out in front, so that's kind of a bummer. It doesn't stay where you left it, but there we have a train, and we can drive it around the toy box. Now, what do you do on the turn? Because we have this gap. Well, my solution for that, or a way to kind of hide that fact, is to go up to the Creativitoys drawer, and we are going to drop down a trigger area inside our tunnel that will trigger a sky change. And I'll show you this for one of the tunnels. All of the others work the same way. So in each of the tunnels, you're going to drop down a trigger area. And you'll notice I place it near the exit to the tunnel. And we're going to bring the start of this all the way out to the beginning of the tunnel. Okay? And what we want to have happen is when we enter the tunnel, as soon as we do, we want to trigger the sky change immediately, so that by the time we get into the tunnel here and we hit this part of the track, the sky will be dark. But as soon as we start to exit the tunnel, long before we actually reach the exit, we want to trigger the sky change to go back to the sky we have now, which is the Wings Across the World sky from the Planes Rescue movie. And that way it'll be bright by the time we exit the tunnel. So to do this, we'll do a new logic connection on the trigger area when entered by player, any. We'll come over to a sky changer that I put down ahead of time. And we'll go under the Disney Infinity 2.0 category and select the pitch black sky. And then on our trigger area, new logic connection when exited by player, any. We'll put the sky back. And of course this is really only going to work if you're in a single player toy box here. And again under 2.0, that's where we find our Wings Across the World sky. Okay, so that'll cover the sky change. And it's not going to make it pitch black, just a little bit darker, but if we go ahead and close in the rest of the roof, the rest of the ceiling here, that'll make it a little bit darker under there, which will help hide that even more. All right, now before I demo that, the question becomes next, what can you do with the train? Because we can now hop in our train, drive it around the perimeter of the toy box. But half the fun of a train set is doing stuff with it, like delivering passengers and cargo. So we have a tower here. This is out of the Building Sets Group 2. This is the City Water Tower. So you could put a button next to this and pull your tanker car up next to it, hop out and push a button, and maybe display something off the text displayer, or play a water sound effect to kind of give you the idea that you've loaded water, kind of like we saw in the Lone Ranger playset. And then use the shorter water tank over here from that same drawer, and maybe put a button over here and kind of do the same thing, simulating like you've delivered the water. So that's one idea. Another idea is we have a couple of physics-based objects, like this kiln liftable block. So we could drop this on the train depot there. It's not going to let us place it inside the box, but I can drop it in there. And the Dunbrock liftable block works too. And you can place that on the flat car, and you can haul that around. And so if you put one of these pressure plates over at the destination where you'd want to be able to deliver that. And maybe you'd have several destinations, but you put one of these down at a place where you want to deliver it, and then you can use that to indicate that you've delivered your cargo. And you can hook that up to a text displayer, and you can get real fancy and use radar markers and all that kind of stuff. But I don't want to do that. I'm just trying to give you ideas of what you can do. So let's hop into our train, pull up in front of the loading dock here, and we'll pick up our cargo, hop on the train, and then hop in the engine, and away we go. And the little hiccup here, every so often, I think is on the seam between the train track pieces. That's why it does that little bump. There's our sky change. And it's not perfect, but it kind of covers up that fact that you've got the missing turn. And there we go, we come out of the tunnel. So this is kind of fun. We're driving our train, we're hauling some cargo. It's not perfect, but it's something we can do with what we've got. And here we would have the same sky change that we would set up, but I, of course, haven't done that yet. But here you can see what it looks like if you don't do that. You can definitely see the track isn't really good. And now we're coming up on our destination for our cargo. Over here at this farm. And we'll stop about here. So now we can pick up our cargo and drop it off. And there we go. Now, what if you want to do passengers? Well, for that, I got a couple of ideas. So I have a friendly wave generator set up, and I've configured the wave with a couple of townspeople. We'll come into the properties, turn off generation delay, put that to 0, and under generated friend options, we'll have them stand still. And this is critical because if you put them on the train and they can wander, they may walk right off the train. And we'll connect these to our 2 locators over here. And we'll use our button to generate these townspeople. And let's go ahead and put them in. There we go. All right, now you can place one right on the flat car, and you can haul them that way. That's not a great ride for them, but that works. And if you do that, you can set up a collection pen over by your destination, wherever you're going to take them, like I did here, and set the properties to remove the counted actor, so you save memory. The other option, though, is you could use a sidekick door, and you would pull up your subway car in front of that, because of course you can't put the townspeople in the car, so you can kind of simulate that using the sidekick door. And if we set the properties on this to remove the townsperson on entry, Let's go ahead and put the subway car up there. There we go. All aboard! So now we kind of pretend like we've loaded her onto the car. Again, the other option is you pick the townsperson up and set them on the car. And this is why it's critical that they stand still, because if they wander off the car, you can lose them in transit, which wouldn't be cool. And then you take them around the track to their destination. And again, you would have a sky change here for this tunnel. And the next one we're going to do. Now when we get to our destination, obviously Pinocchio will be on the flat car. And you can just pick him up and toss him in the collection pen. But we've lost Snow White. By throwing her into the sidekick door, she doesn't really exist anymore. So what you could do is set up a button at the train station when we get there. And when you push the button, it would generate her next to the subway car to kind of simulate her coming off of the car. And then you could pick her up and put her in the collection pen. And that's how you could complete your passenger delivery mission. Again, just an idea of something you could do. We're coming into the station now. And we pick him up and deliver him. And there we go. Passenger delivered. Well, hopefully that gives you some ideas of what you can do with the train pieces that you can unlock in the Marvel Battlegrounds playset, and how you might use them to build a virtual train set in your toy box, even if we don't have all of the track pieces that we would like. If you need some more ideas of what to do with trains, check out the train in my Coco toy box, or my Sleepy Hollow racetrack in my Toy Box Racing series, where I use a train as an obstacle on the course. You can also check out 72 Pringle's Edinburgh Train Station toy box. I'll provide links to all of these videos in the video description. Well, that's all for me today. Leave a comment before you go and let me know what you think of my virtual train set and my ideas for what you can do with it. And be sure to like and subscribe for more Disney Infinity toy box ideas like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.